carefully, so that I too can recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Please. And Fred goes on to say, after discovering that spiritual principles would solve his problems, I have since been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying and I hope more useful than the life I lived before. My old manner of life was by no means a bad one. But I would not exchange its best moments for the worst I have now. I would not go back to it even if I could. Fred's story speaks for itself. We hope it strikes home to thousands like him. He had felt only the first nip of the ringer. Oh, most of you people are way too young to remember what that means. You probably never knew. You knew. Yeah, well, we didn't have these dryers and spin cycles and stuff, did we? But women especially know what the first nip of the ringer would refer to. Some of them were later on they were driven by motors, but at first you cranked them and you just ran the clothes between two rollers and it squeezed the water out, and then you hung it on the line with a clothespin and let the sun dry it. And boy, those clothes came out smelling great. It wasn't something out of a bottle or one of those fluffy kind of papers you throw in the dryer, to make it smell good. The first nip of the ringer. Just the little tip is being caught. Most alcoholics have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. Now, a mangle was another torture instrument for housewives in those days. And some of them were pretty big and they were pretty nasty. 2 hot rollers and you ran your clothes through the mangle. You wouldn't want to get the tip of anything caught in one of those things. Many doctors and psychiatrists agree with our conclusions. One of these men, staff member of a world-renowned hospital, recently made this statement to some of us. This is Dr. Silkworth, by the way, being quoted here. What do you say about the general hopelessness of the average alcoholic's plight is, in my opinion, correct. As 2 of you men whose stories I have heard, there is no doubt in my mind that you were 100% hopeless apart from divine help. Had you offered yourselves as patients at this hospital, I would not have taken you, if I had been able to avoid it. People like you are too heartbreaking. Though not a religious person, I have profound respect for the spiritual approach in such cases as yours. For most cases, there is virtually no other solution. And here's a guy who'd spent 20 years up to this point working with the human solution, trying to get drunks and addicts clean and sober, and he couldn't. Once they reached the chronic stage, he had no hope for them. He had no cure for them. And he watched people going through AA and coming out the other end, clean and sober. In fact, if you look in the first part of his opinion in the front of the book, he was talking about the guys who wrote this book, and he said, you can believe everything that they have said about themselves, because he knew. How would you like to have that as your epitaph when you die? You can believe everything this man or woman said about himself or herself. It's a great one. Here we go. Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. We got to burn this into our foreheads. That obviates anything but a spiritual solution to the disease. The alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases neither he nor any other human can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power.